Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. The presence of Fred W. Loring with his donkey in Prescott reveals the role of pioneers on the United States frontier, a time of intense exploration and territorial expansion after the Civil War. These trips helped establish settlements and drive economic development in the region. In the late 19th century, activities tied to cattle processing were essential to the rural economy, driving the food sector. Sepia-toned photographs like this one from 1887 document everyday life at the time, reflecting the importance of livestock for regional and national development. The creation of camps in Indian Territory in the United States after the Land Run of 1889 marked a phase of expansion and settlement that transformed the vast area later known as Oklahoma. This movement was crucial to the country's internal development and the indigenous presence. In the late 19th century, the distribution of provisions at the Standing Rock Agency reflected the social and economic structure of the time, marked by the presence of indigenous communities and settlers in the Dakota region. This policy affected the survival and development of these populations into the 20th century. In the second half of the 19th century, the United States Army strengthened its positions in the Southwest, including Fort Verde in Arizona. This region, marked by conflicts with indigenous peoples and territorial expansion, was crucial to the military presence, and the image reinforces the discipline and routine of the period. In the late 19th century, institutions such as the Albuquerque Indian School played a key role in carrying out cultural assimilation policies, influencing the history of indigenous populations in the United States. These schools marked a period of social and educational changes that affected generations. The presence of indigenous groups such as the Coyoteros at Fort Apache in Arizona in 1873 reflects the period after the Apache Confederation War, marked by conflicts between Native peoples and American settlers. This context showed indigenous resistance to the expansion of settlements. An indigenous boy wearing pants and a long-sleeve shirt with short dark hair holds his dog outdoors in natural vegetation. The sepia-toned photograph reflects the 19th century era, marked by the early popularization of photographic portraiture, which was important for documenting cultures and ways of life. The indigenous and European delegation of 1872 reflected a moment of negotiation and contact between different cultures, marked by attempts at dialogue and representation of their identities. These images helped document the indigenous presence in the colonial setting and the impact of exploration expeditions and regime changes throughout the 19th century. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the culture of indigenous peoples in the northern United States gained visibility through photographic records that preserved traditions. These photographs reveal ceremonial rituals, such as the Dakota dance, reflecting cultural resistance to changes imposed by settlement and assimilation policies. In the late 19th century, Cheyenne indigenous policing reflected the effects of United States expansion and policies meant to control Native populations. This era marked indigenous resistance and social change in territories occupied by settlers. In the 1880s, the presence of soldiers and civilians in the Arizona region reflected the growing conflict among settlers, the military, and indigenous peoples, driven by interests in land and resources. The 1886 photo shows the influence of conquest and colonization on the western frontier of the United States. The presence of groups of friends around a fort in Utah in 1886 reflects the expansion of the American West and the military presence on the frontier. This era marked the consolidation of indigenous and pioneer territories, influencing the country's history and its current territorial divisions. Men in formal clothing and hats stand outdoors beside cloth tents in the vast Indian Territory. This late 19th century image shows camp conditions and the lifestyle during the period of expansion and settlement in the United States, marking a moment of territorial transformation. Using the setting of a typical late 19th century establishment, the image shows the importance of saloons in American culture, especially in the closing of the West, while the phase of territorial expansion and the strengthening of late 19th century communities became established in the country's history. In the late 19th century, a hunter's camp on the Washita Reservation reflected the routine of pioneer exploration, marked by hunting and contact with the wild environment. The focus on survival and the absence of motorized technology highlight a crucial moment in the history of expansion and conflicts with indigenous peoples. Life in Indian Territory in 1893 reflected a society still marked by native traditions and limited access to modern technologies, with simple wooden structures and hand-painted signs. This era was crucial to the formation of what is now Oklahoma, before its eventual statehood. During the territorial expansion of the United States in the 19th century, forts such as Fort Rawlins in Wyoming were essential for protecting strategic routes and ensuring an institutional presence on the frontier. These improvised wooden structures reflected the soldiers' life in the region. In the late 1860s, the military presence on trade routes was essential to protect caravans and troops from attacks and robberies during the transport of goods, strengthening trade security during the expansion of the western United States. Railroad construction in the late 19th century drove the development of regions like South Dakota, where workers and hunters lived in temporary camps such as Wade and Jones, showing the importance of railroad progress in the occupation and integration of the American West, especially in Dakota, through 1900. The 1880s marked the height of railroad construction in the United States, driving economic expansion and speeding up settlement of the West. The 1888 photo shows workers of the Deadwood Central Railroad, whose work was crucial for connecting isolated regions to the national market and promoting regional development. Gold mining in Bournes Gulch in La Plata County, Colorado, in 1875 reflected the search for wealth during the 19th century gold rush. The activity, carried out with hand tools and carts, was crucial to the region's economic development and symbolizes territorial expansion. The mining operation at the Montana mine reflected the expansion of the mining sector in the late 19th century, driven by the rush for minerals and natural resources. This period marked economic growth and the formation of communities around mines, essential to industrial progress in the United States. Mining in California in the 19th century drove economic development and the growing demand for natural resources. The image of a mine carved into rock recalls the gold rush and the expansion of the Wild West, marking an important phase in the region's history of settlement and industrialization. In the late 19th century, Leadville, Colorado, experienced fast growth thanks to gold and silver mining, which drove its economy and population. The architecture of the time reflected the prosperity of the American West, establishing it as an important center in the post-railroad expansion. In the late 19th century, appreciation for natural parks such as Calaveras big trees in California reflected growing environmental awareness and recognition of the importance of preserving areas with giant sequoia trees. These regions helped shape environmental and conservation policies. In the late 19th century, mule teams were essential for transporting minerals in dry regions like Nevada in the United States, where the hauling of borax drove the local economy. The image shows the vital role of animal-drawn vehicles in economic expansion and the development of the American West. The arrival of a steam train crossing the Missouri River over the ice in Bismarck in March 1879 symbolizes the expansion of railroads in the 19th century, driving economic growth and territorial exploration in the United States. This achievement was vital to the consolidation of the American West. A Pony Express rider in 1861 wore traditional clothing, a wide-brimmed hat, and old equipment while riding on horseback in open country. This fast delivery network was essential for communication in the United States, speeding up the exchange of news and strengthening pioneer expansion in the West. John Wesley Powell's expedition marked an important stage in the exploration of the American West by navigating the Colorado River in 1869, revealing the scale of little-known lands. This 1871 photograph captures the beginning of his journeys, strengthening the geographic understanding of the region and driving the mapping of the territory. The Railroad Revolution marked a deep transformation in the territorial expansion of the United States, making it easier to move people and goods while also driving economic growth. The Oneonta locomotive in Cisco represents this crucial advance between 1863 and 1869. In the late 19th century, railroad expansion in the United States helped connect isolated regions, especially in the Arizona Territory, which was not yet a state. The laying of tracks on the western frontier made it easier to move people and wealth, strengthening territorial control and promoting economic development. The 1860s marked the expansion of railroads in the United States, driving the movement of cattle to trade centers. The arrival of wooden rail lines in Abilene, Kansas, made it easier to bring animals from the West to markets, becoming a milestone in the consolidation of the American West. The arrival of stagecoaches in regions such as Siskiyou County, California, in 1887 symbolizes the advance of rail routes and the development of the American West. These routes were essential for territorial expansion, making transportation, trade, and contact with isolated communities easier during this time of change. During the late 19th century, the Black Hills became a center of exploration and settlement in North America, driven by the discovery of gold in 1874. This expansion encouraged the movement of goods and people, strengthening the growth of frontier regions. The arrival of Mormon immigrants in 1879 marked a decisive stage in the settlement of the western United States, promoting the creation of self-supporting communities in territories that were often unexplored. The covered wagon caravan symbolizes this pioneer journey that contributed to territorial expansion, reflecting the determination of a people seeking religious freedom and new opportunities in life. Pioneer life in the late 19th century was marked by the effort to settle less populated regions, such as the American Plains. The construction of earthen houses and period clothing reflected a daily life focused on survival and progress in expanding territories. The setting of Grand Island, Nebraska in 1867 reflects the early years of development in the American West, marked by rough wooden buildings and the absence of modern infrastructure such as motor vehicles and power poles. Growth after railroad expansion played a crucial role in this process. The founding of the first metalworking shop in Guthrie, Oklahoma, around 1889, marked an important step in the expansion of the American West, reflecting the growth of communities and infrastructure development during the era of major migrations and the Oklahoma land rush, driving local progress. The oldest residence in Santa Fe, built with adobe walls and wooden shuttered windows, testifies to the past of a city founded by indigenous peoples and Spanish settlers. Its aged structure reveals traditional techniques that shaped regional development. The 1853 image reveals a business establishment in Waldo, Oregon, where C. Decker operated a general store offering items such as mail service, groceries, and dry goods. The stone or brick construction shows techniques of the time, while formal clothing, hats, a bicycle, and a horse highlight everyday life without modern technological advances. In the 1870s, the city of Denver was growing as an important center in the expansion of the American West, marked by wooden architecture and transportation with wooden-wheeled wagons. This phase established an era of development without motor vehicles and strengthened the identity of a rural, growing community. Activity on Broadway Avenue in Abilene, Kansas, reflects the development of a 19th century city marked by supply stores, a bank, and the Metropolitan Building, showing the urban growth that came before its importance in commerce and in the history of the American West. The ground of a street in Trinidad, Colorado, shows an unpaved road and wooden buildings with decorative details that reflect the architecture of the time. This setting reveals the growth of local commerce in the 1880s, important to the development of the American West. Urban life in Coleman, Texas, in 1882 reflects growth after the American Civil War, when the West was becoming a frontier of economic expansion. At that time, towns created commercial centers that were essential for regional development and the strengthening of the local economy. In the late 19th century, the growth of towns like Wahpeton reflected the economic and social expansion of the United States. The presence of meat markets and the use of carriages show the importance of local commerce and urban infrastructure during a time of transition from countryside to city. In the town of Havre, Montana, men and women in traditional clothing move around carriages, reflecting their life in the 19th century or early 20th century. This phase marked the expansion of the American West, driven by the arrival of railroad tracks, which made local development and modernization easier. The late 19th century was marked by the expansion of the Arizona Territory, then a frontier area and a place of interest for pioneers. During this period, communities appeared with simple buildings, animal-drawn vehicles, and a life shaped by rural routines before the arrival of modern infrastructure. The image reveals a scene from a small 19th century town with simple wooden buildings and no signs of electrification, reflecting the time before electric power became common. Around 1881, many communities in the United States faced infrastructure challenges, explaining the rustic and austere setting of this place, a symbol of pioneer development on the western frontier. In the late 19th century, the presence of horse-drawn stagecoaches in towns like Cripple Creek shows the importance of traditional transportation during the gold rush and economic development. This period marked the consolidation of trade and infrastructure in the region. In the late 19th century, wagons with spoked wheels symbolized essential transportation in the expansion of the American West, especially in Colorado, where settlement and the farming economy were growing stronger. These vehicles helped connect rural communities with urban centers. A street in Webster, Kansas, reveals the daily life of a rural community where carriages cross the area and wooden buildings represent the dominant architectural style. During this period, the absence of motor vehicles and electric lighting marked the transition between an agricultural society and modernization. The trade activity in the town reveals economic growth with old storefronts and visible signs, while period vehicles and high-voltage wires show the technical progress of the time. These changes drove urban development, marking the shift from a traditional town to a growing commercial center. In the late 19th century, territories like Oklahoma still had simple wooden buildings, sign-based commerce, and old-style clothing, reflecting a phase of frontier expansion marked by the organization of the territory in 1890. This era strengthened the presence of pioneer communities. In the late 19th century, blacksmith training connected rural communities to an essential craft. In Oregon, where farming was dominant, iron workshops and handmade tools drove local economic development, reflecting the importance of manual labor in the expansion of the American West. The movement of convoys carrying workers toward the mines reflected the growth of the mining industry in the Washington region, driving local economic development, improving mobility, and changing social routines, while turtles marked the pace of a society in transformation. In the late 19th century, towns like Wilton in North Dakota became established as farming centers marked by dirt roads, wooden buildings, and oxen hauling loads. This phase marked the shift from rural life toward growing urbanization in the United States. In the late 19th century, the work of William A. Pinkerton and his agents stood out in crime investigations and the prevention of financial fraud in the United States, marking the beginning of a private security system that influenced the development of modern intelligence agencies. Gravel mining in the 1890s drove the development of the American West, supporting railroad construction and the growth of cities. Workers wearing clothing typical of the time operate hand tools near an iron bridge, symbolizing regional economic expansion. The formation of cowboy bands in Western American towns such as Dodge City reflected local culture and the strength of the music scene at the time. Events like rodeos and the expansion of railroads helped popularize these groups, which became symbols of Western identity in the late 19th century. At the turn of the 19th century into the 20th, cattle work in California drove an economy based on animal raising and territorial expansion. The presence of mounted cowhands shows the importance of horses and handling techniques, strengthening the culture of rural labor in the region. A crowd of riders and wagons charges across Oklahoma land during the 1893 run, and the Cherokee Strip run record shows the frantic push of thousands of settlers seeking farm property as dust and chaos mark the final claiming of a vast American region. Tasunka, known as Plenty Horses, stands beside two United States government agents around 1891, and their placement near large equipment reflects post-conflict tensions at Pine Ridge, highlighting the complex pressures of forced cultural change and surveillance over native peoples. Paiute people in northern Arizona were recorded around 1874, using an ancestral friction method to make fire, wearing fringed hide clothing while working sticks and dry fibers to preserve traditional survival skills in the area's arid environment. The Chinese hose team, Champions of America, poses after winning the major hub and hub race in Deadwood, Dakota on July 4, 1888, wearing traditional uniforms and straw hats that highlight integration and cultural competition as Western communities developed. Prospectors driven by gold fever guide ox carts toward new claims around 1889, capturing determined travelers in dry country and illustrating the mass movement and pursuit of wealth that shaped economic expansion in the American West. Miners pose as a group during the height of the California gold rush around 1850, holding shovels and wearing worn work clothes, embodying the frantic chase for fortune in the West as the image reflects both diversity and hardship in American mining camps. Wooden storefronts line the business scene on Broadway Street in Oklahoma Territory, and a January 1894 record points to places like the Pioneer Meat Market and the Nelson Restaurant, while men and a dog on the sidewalk show the rough everyday life of Round Pond during settlement. The wooden front of the English Kitchen Restaurant in Round Pond in 1894 shows everyday business life in Oklahoma Territory, as men pose by an entrance marked Williams and a sign offers meals for 20 cents, and the rough building reflects frontier town development. A panoramic view shows the early camp in Anadarko, Oklahoma Territory in the summer of 1901, and the scene dated August 8, 1901, features canvas tents and rough structures used as temporary shelter for new settlers, marking the area's rapid shift toward town growth. The Cosmopolitan Social Hall stood in Yosemite Valley around 1872 as a gathering place and bathhouse for visitors, and men rest on the wooden porch beneath a sign with an eagle, while the simple building points to the rise of local tourism. Cowboys switch mounts during a work maneuver in South Dakota Territory in 1890, and the steady care and rotation of horses was central to the ranching economy, keeping transport and cattle handling fast across the wide prairies. Cowboys eat at a makeshift camp along the Yellowstone River in Montana, using metal plates and simple cups near a covered wagon that serves as their support, illustrating the nomadic and rugged life needed for cattle work on the vast American prairies. At a plains camp, cowboys eat beside the chuck wagon while horses and cattle rest nearby in a quiet open field, showing the simple logistics that supported long stretches of ranch work, a slice of everyday life in the American West around 1890. In the late 19th century, indigenous communities such as the Piagam lived in natural environments while preserving their traditional ways of life before the major changes brought by colonial activities and the advance of assimilation policies that affected their lands and culture. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.